Okay.
Wow, look at that.
Everyone, great audience. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to this quarter's Resilience and Sustainability Advisory Committee meeting. The agenda was sent via email to current committee members. In place of Stewart, I'll go ahead and act as the vice chair this morning. I don't know, don't believe that the minutes were forwarded from August 21st. I don't know if deferral is needed. Okay, so we're gonna defer the acceptance of the meeting minutes from August 21st. And we're gonna move to agenda item number 3. And that's going to be a just corridor update from Kaylin. And Kaylin, I'm gonna pull up your presentation. Okay.
Mika gets that pulled up. I'll introduce myself to some folks in the room that may not know my role here at the city. My name is Kaylin Cazella. I'm the Director of Resilience. I'm going to go through a really brief resilience update that's also going to talk about some next steps we have with the Just Corridor, which is our ecological corridor update. Okay, so we'll start with the Just Corridor update. As you know, this was originally framed as the ecological corridor, this idea of how we kind of naturalize our already built environment and, piloting this on the peninsula. And we have, through Mika's leadership, this has been renamed as the Just Corridor. And so I wanted to talk about, we're actually now progressing with some real projects to be part of the Just Corridor. So we're working with, the city has the Resilience Office and Sustainability Office. We have a contract with Joshua Robinson Design Engineers. He's, leader in kind of these natural-based engineering solutions. So he is, by the end of the year, he's working on in the Halsey Creek area, restoring between 10th and 12th Avenue, Gordon Street, going out into the marsh. And right now he's putting together, he has a scope and drafting on proposals to clean the historic creek channels, clearing around existing stormwater outfalls. This is a really challenging area for the Wagner Terrace community and residents around there that see a lot of flooding. And then, after excavating and cleaning out outfalls, going to get some volunteers and crews to plant some Spartina marsh grass plugs in the marsh. So first step is we're working with Joshua. He's going to start preparing all the permit application for this. And then hopefully targeting construction in the spring, and with the goal of that restoration work and working with some other partners like the College of Charleston, see some students here, Marsh Project, of course, very active in the neighborhood. And really we hope to use this as like a pilot of a scope of work that can be done in other areas of this corridor.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And then I think back maybe in the springtime, updated this committee. The new Market Creek moving over to the east side of the peninsula, part of the footprint of the Just Corridor. We put in several grant requests. This was a conceptual pilot project from our comprehensive water plan to how we can restore the New Market Creek area to improve flooding, particularly this area, the east side of the peninsula. Obviously we deal with our stormwater flooding, but also increasing tidal flooding.
I'm gonna have to share the screen.
Sure. I'll keep talking about it because I know we have a packed agenda, but so we put in 2 different grants. Yes, they still exist. At the federal level, there was a NOAA grant we put in for $6 million for design, permitting and restoration, begin some preliminary restoration of the site. And then we also put in $1 million request for NIFWIF, which the city has been successful in the past of getting some NIFWIF funding for some of these more natural based projects. This is what funded our Barberry Woods project out in Johns Island, as well as some of the work we did out in Church Creek with the Shadow Moss area as well. So we're hoping to hear back about whether we're successful with these grants by the end of the year. Obviously, the federal government is shut down, so we are contingent on them reopening. I'm sure some of these folks that are working on this are currently not working, but that's okay. Hopefully they will be up and running shortly. And again, this is a project that, you can check out our comprehensive water plan. It went through in detail all the things that could be happening in this area, and it really complements what we've already underway as a city, starting with our low line project, that linear park down the spine of the peninsula. And I'm just going to really quickly too go through some quick resilience updates that I think y'all might be interested in. Okay, So we talked before about, the city's partnership with the Army Corps of Engineers. Our water plan has helped guide it, our roadmap for the city. And, that's a lot of investments the city needs to make for resilience and adaptation and how we successfully manage water. So we've looked for our partnership with the Army Corps. They bring a lot of federal cost share to some of these larger scale projects. One of these being this battery extension project that we've envisioned in the city to kind of provide this perimeter protection on the peninsula. And as folks know, this has been a long process. We've been in the work of the city actually leading some design, optimizing what that looks like, what the footprint of this project could be. But really big news is we finally got to a place where we have this confidence and trust with the Corps that we can actually start progressing a project that really fits, obviously protects us from flooding, but really, like the existing batteries today, provides a public amenity, increased public access to the waterfront, safer mobility, bike ped connections around the peninsula, integrating with other projects that are coming, including our Ashley River crossing. That bike ped bridge is coming across the Ashley River. That really is going to connect, folks from West Ashley to the peninsula better, all around the peninsula, connecting to the Ravenel. So we're really excited about this project. But the big news is we signed, about a month ago, we signed the design agreement with the Army Corps. So we are accelerated full throttle sort of on that project. We're concurrently working on this entire footprint, including the rehabilitation of the high battery. And right now we have our water plant team has been sort of our project managers, along with myself and some of our stormwater folks, and moving this forward and really optimizing it for the city. So we're really excited about that update. And of course, we also have, the rest of the city have clearly experiences some flooding as well. So we do have this tidal and inland flood study with the Army Corps too that is helping the city solve some flood challenges off peninsula as well, including in West Ashley and James Island. And what's really exciting about this too is they've asked the city to help lead on looking at larger scale nature-based solutions. So we've been in this study for about a year. So stay tuned. I think probably our next meeting, I'll bring in the Army Corps team we've been working with to give you a little update about exactly where we're at with that project. I've also, I think, talked to this as a complementary to this Army Corps projects. We've been working on a Rosemont and Bridgeview resilience plan with the Rosemont and Bridgeview communities. This sort of was an offshoot off of these communities and where they're part of the project with the Army Corps. They were for storm protection. They were deemed for non-structural, which is home elevations and dry flood proofing measures. And clearly, as we engage more with the community, they said, we need to look more holistically at our resilience and flooding challenges. And so we actually, the city is by no means leading this effort. We are a contributor to this effort with the community, with some nonprofit organizations, LAMC, Sustainability Institute. So, but what the city is doing, we are contributing to a flood action plan. Our same water plan team is working on this. We've been engaging with the community to find some near-term stormwater solutions as well as some longer-term adaptation plans for the community. So we're excited about that. We should be going live. There's a draft proposal that we're reviewing right now, community. So just giving you an update on that. And then something really exciting that's was announced and rebooted last week is the county, our legislative state senators and state representatives have a countywide intergovernmental flood prevention task force. And they're going to meet quarterly. They just met last week. And what's really exciting is particularly for our multi-jurisdictional maze of jurisdiction areas of the city and West Ashley, James Island, Johns Island. This is really a way for everybody that is at the table, the different municipalities, the county, Department of Transportation, residents in these areas can submit, issues, pictures, and we all tackle them together, as well as identifying challenges that we have when solving some of these multi-jurisdictional flooding issues. So their next meeting is going to be in February, and it's a public meeting. They take public comment. So encourage you all to attend if that's something that's relevant to you and your community. And then, of course, WaterWise is our communications umbrella. We're starting to talk about everything flooding and water here in the city. And we've been doing monthly spotlight. So highlighting our fall November spotlight is really fall yard care and getting folks. So encouraging your neighbors to, we say where you leave your leaves matter, clearing your gutters, how you're trimming your branches, raking leaves away from drains. The city does have Adopt a Drain program. So check out our website, go to WaterWise, you'll find all these buckets of information. I think that's it for me. Okay, I tried to move through really quickly. I'm happy to answer any questions. You can find my contact information on the WaterWise website and our website, and I'm happy to follow up with anybody if you have questions or take a few brief ones from the committee members if y'all had any questions on the update.
Committee members have any questions? No? And I'd just like to go back, since we do have an audience here, I'm gonna try, let's see. And access, I'll share a screen again. Want to just go back to the just corridor piece. I guess I'll just go back to your slides. Yeah, sure. Yeah, let's just go back there. In terms of the update here, I think it's important to just and for those who are not familiar. 100%. Tech does not want to be my friend today. Oh my goodness. All right. But I don't know. We'll leave it right here. I don't know what's going on. Okay, but just to help folks understand the moment, I want to give acknowledgement to the March Project and the whole entire coalition that they're continuing to build around this effort. The Just Corridor, named again for Ernest Everett Just, an unsung figure. I hate to use that term, but an unsung figure here in Charleston, who's ecological work, his scientific brilliance is something that I am looking forward to not just memorializing with projects like this, but also I feel like it's a point of inspiration, and it's actually in such alignment with what the Marsh Project is doing in terms of understanding how your natural environment impacts who we are as individuals, as humans. So I look forward to sharing more about that. And also during the public comment period, we want to also open the floor to Marsh Project so you can continue to talk about the Just Corridor, because again, Caitlin mentioned this. This was one of those examples of community-led effort coming to the city and immediately getting the buy-in from Mayor Cogswell and others within the city. So I'm grateful to have not just Caitlin, but a whole host of other people who are excited about seeing the Just Corridor actually breaking ground. It might not be the most, I guess the most fanfare in the beginning, but for me, it feels monumental and significant. So I wanted to hold space for that. And yeah, I'll not share the screen. Next on the agenda, another exciting update. Let me see now, I have to get this going. Hold on one second. We're going to do a relief initiative. This is a new tree initiative. This is something Mayor Cogswell spoke to at the previous committee meeting. And we do have Casey Conrad. He's going to present. Casey, before I kick it to Casey, I just wanted to just break down and give a quick overall view, I guess, of what the initiative is. Here's Casey. One moment. I'm going to cue you up in a second. Let's see. Ha. And of course, it doesn't format great, so that's awesome.
Enable that.
I'm sorry. It doesn't matter. Okay, so just what Casey will go into in greater detail. Oh, I'm not sharing yet. Here we go. So just in brief, right here, what you see here, this is something that Casey, this is an initial map. This is not just where we're going to start, but basically the relief effort is a way for, it's an initiative spurred by Mayor Cogswell to help increase our tree canopy. And so what we've done is lean on the folks in GIS to help us identify those areas where we can have the quickest impact, where we can start identifying where the need is. But this is all about, again, the first slide had the text on there. So yeah, is the city's new urban tree planting initiative designed to restore canopy coverage, reduce heat vulnerability, and strengthen community partnerships. What we do want this to be is a collective effort where we summon the help of folks who've already doing this work. I know MUSC is already doing a lot in terms of increasing tree canopy, as are a whole host of other nonprofits and whatnot. So yeah, I'm gonna stop sharing here. And Casey, I'm gonna kick it off to you and see if you can share your screen and walk us through our initial phases.
All right. Thank you so much, Mika. Can you all hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. All right, I'm going to share my screen here. Okay. All right. So thank you for that introduction, Mika. So yes, my name is Casey Conrad. I'm a GIS analyst here at the City of Charleston. And so I've been working with tree data for a few years now. We started, I think it was in 2021, mapping our land cover here in Charleston, which let us see like where our existing tree canopy was, where there are gaps in it. And around the same time, we got some data from NOAA showing the actual heat on the citywide, but showing that the peninsula is much hotter than a lot of other parts of Charleston. And so we could compare those two pieces of data and look at, okay, it's much hotter, let's say in the medical district because there are fewer trees. And like Mika said, that they've done a lot of work to increase their canopy. But that was the goal then, and it's still the goal now. But we're gonna do this now. We're gonna move forward with a lot more data here to make this more of a data-driven process. So there we go. All right, so we have this Arbor Pro tree inventory. And before I get into what's in it, I want to give a huge shout out to the Parks Department and the Urban Forestry team. This was a tremendous lift. So they worked with this company, Arbor Pro, to inventory the existing trees that we have, the city trees that we have in Charleston, and identify tree wells or places that we can plant trees. But they collected all kinds of data. They got so there's about a little over 75,000 tree wells identified. They collected the species, the condition, the height, the diameter, both of like the crown and of the trunk. They estimated a dollar value. And then they also estimated a air pollution removal, energy emissions, and a stormwater mitigation value. So I cannot overstate, this was a huge amount of data collection, and this is going to be a really powerful tool moving forward in where we can focus our efforts and be most effective. So just a little bit of a breakdown of what they found. So it's around 85% trees in good or fair condition. Now this number isn't quite fair because this is also counting vacant tree wells. So it's really closer to like 94, 95% of our trees are in good or fair condition. That's excellent. Only about 5% in poor, dead, or stump condition. Not bad. There are nearly 7,000 vacant tree wells. So I think that presents a huge opportunity for us planting more trees. But I'll caveat that with that not all of these tree wells are going to be viable for tree planting. And I'm going to go through a criteria that forestry has come up with for deciding if we should indeed plant a tree in one of these empty wells or not. So yeah, this is kind of what the data looks like overall. Now what I've done is take our water plan watershed areas. So there's around 16 of them, and I've used those as kind of my boundaries for breaking up this Arbor Pro data and some of the other tree canopy data that I've worked on previously. And so the map you're looking at here is the James Island Creek Basin. That's Folly Road running along the western kind of portion of it, kind of in the middle. And on the map, you'll see there's African American settlement communities delineated. There's the actual basin outline. There's the existing tree canopy, and then the Arbor Pro, the points of Arbor Pro tree wells. So this is, each one of these they went to, and if there was a tree there, they collected data on it. If there could be a tree there, they marked it as vacant. And then I've got everything outside of city limits kind of whited out, just so we know the area that we're talking about within our jurisdiction here. So I have a map of this, just like this for each of the different watershed boundaries. And then it's kind of difficult to see at this zoom level, but the streets with a low percent canopy coverage are in red, the percentage of tree canopy that they have. And so the idea is that we can come in and say, all right, we have empty tree wells. This tree has a pretty low canopy coverage right now. This would be a good place to start. And the goal is that we can get some easy early wins by looking at this data and figuring out, where we should be focusing early on. Um, and so, yeah, I've got a couple zoomed in insets. This is a Rivers Point neighborhood, and you can see the trees in yellow are in fair condition. The white points are empty tree wells, and those are gaps in the tree canopy there that we could plant a tree. This is Lansdowne on the lower inset map. So the inside of this neighborhood is not within city limits, but the outside is, and it's got a lot of vacant tree wells. Another neighborhood that you can see kind of in the southwest corner over here, this is Willow Walk. So there's a lot of opportunities in this area too. Um, and so, like I said, I can do this in each of the different basins. So this is the DuPont Wapu Basin in West Ashley. And so on the James Island Creek Basin, there's 630 vacant tree wells. Here in DuPont West Ashley, there's 775 vacant tree wells. Um, it's the same kind of layout of the map. And I've zoomed in here on Citadel Woods neighborhood. There's a lot of opportunities in here, and you can see these lower percent canopy streets are highlighted in red. So the peninsula has more empty tree wells than anywhere. Almost 2,000. 11,000 trees in good or fair condition. So we're doing great work on the peninsula already. But then there's a lot of streets that have low canopy coverage. And like I mentioned before, the peninsula was identified, or neighborhoods in the peninsula, as being hotter than a lot of other parts of town. They get this urban heat island effect. So anywhere we can get more shade on the peninsula is going to be a huge benefit. So I've zoomed in here on the west side. You can see there's a lot of trees everywhere. That's Hampton Park to the northwest. That is Fishburne Street and Harmon Field to the southwest. So that's Fishburne kind of running across the lower middle. So a lot of trees in great condition, but also a lot of opportunities to plant more trees on the peninsula. And then I wanted to show a Johns Island watershed because Johns Island is kind of famously green as it is. That doesn't mean we couldn't plant more trees, but one thing that I found in Johns Island is where there are gaps in the tree canopy. A lot of it is in these newer neighborhoods where they've been constructed within the last 10 years, and so they actually have trees planted. This is a street view image in the bottom left. They have trees planted, but they're just very young. We need to give them a few years to grow, and that'll fill out that canopy and provide some more shade. So fewer opportunities on Johns Island, but certainly not no opportunities. Okay, so like I said before, we have all these vacant wells that there's almost 7,000 of them, but not all of them are going to be appropriate for planting a tree. And so the forestry team came up with some basic criteria that we should kind of vet these empty wells through to decide if we should move forward with planting a tree there. And I think these are great. So locations with overhead power lines can only take a small maturing tree. We should avoid utility conflicts up both above and below ground. Locations with tidal flooding issues need a salt-tolerant tree species. The size of the verge is like the space in between the road and the sidewalk. So the size of that tree well, anything less than 3 feet is too small. We need to watch out for planting too close to street signs, street lights, intersections. We don't want to plant a tree that blocks a stop sign. So nothing within 20 feet and only palms or palmettos within 50 feet. No large maturing species where like a house or a structure is right up against the setback line. And then if none of those other criteria or if all of those other criteria are met, we should do our best to increase species diversity. So, like I said, the ArborPro data has what species it is. there's a lot of, live oaks, there's a lot of palmettos, there's a lot of crepe myrtles. So the goal here would be to get some other, hopefully native varieties, and in the mix. Native being important because, we've got some kind of harsh conditions in Charleston between the heat and the rain, and sometimes it gets cold. So if we can find native species, that's ideal. All right, so these are their criteria, and fortunately, we can pretty much cover this with the data that we have. So the ArborPro data contains utility, whether or not there's a utility for each one. Now, I need to get with our forestry team and see if that includes below ground utilities. My suspicion is that it does not. So that one might be an unknown. But tidal flooding, we're in GIS, we're very familiar with where we experience tidal flooding issues. So that one's easy to figure out. The size of the verge of the tree well, this is all within the ArborPro data. Again, cannot stress enough what a huge lift that the forestry team, in collecting all this. It's incredible. Proximity to stop signs, streetlights, and intersections. We can handle that in GIS, just figure out what is the closest of each of those things. And then the same is true for the structures. I can run a tool that says what's the closest building to this tree. So then that just leaves the last criteria, which I kind of think is the fun part, is, what do we want to plant there? So some additional criteria that we've talked about. We'd like to prioritize city maintained streets first. And this is just kind of for an easy win. We don't have to ask permission if it's a city maintained street. This is where we'll be able to get in and start digging right away. That doesn't mean we shouldn't plan on DOT streets. There are plenty of DOT streets that have city trees on them already. But it's just going to be easier for us to work on our own city maintained streets. So we should prioritize areas that are currently tree deficient. I think this is kind of a no-brainer, but the map on the right shows, subdivision wide, the percentage of street canopy. So yeah, if we just start with those numbers in red, I think we'll be making progress. From a stormwater standpoint, we can prioritize flood-prone areas, obviously with the appropriate tree species, but planting trees that are going to suck up some of that flood water when we get a big storm can help out in some of those flood-prone areas. And then I alluded to the NOAA Heat Watch data. So this is this smaller map on the right is what that looks like, and what you see in the NOAA data is that these highly impervious areas with a lot of concrete are hotter. This study was done in like July of 2021. And it showed that, yeah, if there's a lot of concrete, this is a hotter part of town. So if we can get more tree canopy there, more shade there, we can cool things off a little bit. Okay, so then some goals. So Mika talked about partner organizations, and she came up with a great list of, it's kind of a mix of businesses, large and small, local and nationwide, nonprofits that are, in a lot of cases, really already doing this work. Some colleges, universities, some nurseries. So all kinds of great businesses that would likely want to get involved with this effort. And so, we can map those and see, are there empty tree wells around some of those businesses, particularly the local ones. I think would be interested in maybe sponsoring a tree right in front of their business, or, adopting a tree well to take care of it, because those first few years when you plant a tree are really the critical time when it needs a little more TLC. So yeah, partner organizations, create a tool to evaluate tree wells. This one's for me. And so what I've got at the bottom here probably looks like nonsense to everybody, but this is basically a tool in GIS that runs all of that tree data through all of those criterias, and spits out another data set at the end that has, what is the closest, or how far is the closest building? How far is the closest stop sign? Is this a flooded area? That kind of thing. And this will make this process repeatable so that as we make progress and check off some of these empty wells, we can run it again and say, okay, now let's focus over here. Okay, use existing species and tree condition to identify what species will do well where. This is looking at the tree condition and what's planted there. Maybe on one street you've got an oak that's doing really well and a crepe myrtle that's not doing so well. So this would be just to kind of get some insight as to what's going to be happy where when we go to start choosing what species we want. And then kind of in tandem with that, what is a similar species but not the same species? So maybe something in the same family that we could plant that would also likely do well in that location, but be something different to promote biodiversity. So those are our goals, are partially my goals moving forward with this. Mika, do you have anything to add to that list?
First and foremost, I just want to take a moment and say this is such an amazing presentation. I was able to go through it a little bit prior to the meeting, but I just want to recognize this is awesome, Casey. In terms of the goals, I think this is a great springboard for what I intended to ask here is how can we leverage the network and the committee members and just folks here to put together a team so we can move forward with next steps. There are a ton of details and feedback that I got directly from not just Mayor Cogswell, but some other city staffers within stormwater. And I think Casey has helped us create a framework so we can have an entire Charleston-wide approach, but starting with some of the identified partners. So there's a ton of, I guess, supplemental information that we just can't share today for a number of reasons, but I'd love to perhaps during public comment, maybe, or now we can talk here, here are some ideas of how we can begin this. And I neglected to say that, Casey, you also dropped off 2 maps here in the MEOC, and I saw
Right.
got access to those. So we'd love for folks to take a look at that as well while you're here. But in terms of next steps, I think there were some dates that we identified. Okay, there were some dates that we identified coming up that we wanted to take advantage of. Specifically, we know that in December we have South Carolina Arbor Day, but also we have Earth Day in April. We know that we need to be cognizant of the planting days for some of the trees as well. So I think next steps for me, Casey, is taking a lot of what you shared today and figuring out how to move forward. Specifically with the ArborPro data, Casey was spot on. The data is brilliant, is amazing, but it's not finite. There's some, I guess, some considerations that we need to make. So that's what hopefully the committee will help us troubleshoot with as well. But no, I think that is it for in terms of your presentation. Unless anyone had any questions, I definitely wanted to make sure. I have one question here from Mr.
Hey, Casey, this was awesome. I had a question on the peninsula.
This is Blake Suarez speaking to you directly, Casey.
Yeah, sorry, maybe I missed something, but the tree wells that you identified on the peninsula map, I noticed there was like nothing on the east side. Is that
Right? No. So this is by I'll
actually,
actually share again. So this is by watershed boundary. And the reason we did it by watershed boundary is because it's a little overwhelming when you look at sorry, I want to go back. When you look at all of them at once, so this is only the Ashley River side of the peninsula. So there's also a Cooper River watershed side of the peninsula. Yeah, that doesn't mean that there's no wells over there or that there are not, yeah, there's plenty on the east side too.
all right, cool.
Yeah, and also too, for the next question, I asked Casey to focus on certain areas. I want to make it very clear that we're not just addressing the peninsula. So yeah, so we're still refining that as well. Another question, Dr. Scott.
I had a question about the approval process for the vacant wells. And then based on this plan, would community organizations be able to plant directly, or would we have to work with the city arborists, or how would that work? Because I know there's staffing issues with the urban forestry.
On private property, folks, we want to create a program where you understand like the best practices and some of the guidelines, but on your private property or commercial property, it's up to you all.
I meant like the easement location,
Oh,
because
yeah.
that was the question.
Well, that's what we have to continue. I don't know, Casey, if you had an answer for that specifically.
No, I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah.
That's I think it's an exciting opportunity, but there's definitely some details that, how does that work? If somebody wants to say sponsor a tree, what does that mean exactly? So yeah,
I think those are the details we're still, finalizing. Obviously if you find something that's a vacant city well, like that's something I think this program Relief is something the city is partnering with. So, we're gonna set up a system that helps intake like folks that are interested in the city property wells. And then people, I think that the ultimate goal is we would bring some funding to the table. You all would bring some funding to the table. We work with our forestry department to, again, Casey talked about, the vulnerability of these first 2 years and ensuring like maintenance and maybe involving, because we like, it's just not putting a hose out and watering. Like there is a little bit of training that goes with tree care. So, I think that's all part of the strategy that we're finalizing now.
Christy?
So my question was, so if a nonprofit organization, let's say Sierra Club, because I know we have some money set aside for trees. So how do we plug in? When do we?
So yeah, I'd love to, following the meeting, you come forward and we can just start that. I have the list of some folks directly. Casey mentioned the spreadsheet I created has over 60 community partners broken down. So I love to just reach out with now and start that chain, but also there will be an email going out asking for help as well.
Okay.
I'm going to start with our committee members first.
And I think Mika, you've worked on like the forestry team, like, a cost estimate of like a specific type of tree, what would that cost be? And then, again, working through this, like what would the cost share be and the maintenance. So.
Yeah, and that may be contained in what we're already working on, but along the lines of just getting really granular, I see 879 trees identified from poor to vacant. At least within this, have we looked at what does the city currently have budgeted as it relates to mitigation funds that are already existing for trees? What do we have in the budget for it? What is our average cost per tree? I mean, $1,000 is $879,000. I think a number of us could sit here and say, okay, I can come up with some money, but I think to do that, I'd like to understand what are the city resources that are available currently. And yes, certainly once trees planted to ensure it is successful. So yeah, those are some of the things that I think we're prepared to lean in pretty heavily, but I would want to understand the city's what's existing from a monetary standpoint, what's the average cost per tree. And then I wrote the city property wells. So if of the 879, half of them are within city easily sort of impacted trees, then that's just some additional data that I'd like to understand before we make any commitments.
Absolutely. And we'll follow up on that last part, but in terms of the financial commitment, I won't speak for Mayor Cogswell directly, but I will relate that is something that we've already planned for. So there's going to be a significant commitment from the city's general fund. I right now that figure, I don't want to be too specific on that, but it will be significant. This is not an ask where we're trying to pass on this cost, to other area organizations and institutions. We'd like to, there's going to be a clear commitment from the city in terms of this being a priority. So we'll definitely continue to talk for sure. And thank you so much for saying that you will.
City's going through our budget process.
Yes.
Now, you'll see that public, you'll see the ad hoc meetings and stuff that'll be public. And I think maybe Mika saying we'll save it for the mayor to update y'all next
not
on
rolling
the
out any
finances.
numbers.
But yes, the numbers are being crunched and what commitment we would ask for partners, and what the city would bring to the table, and what that would look like.
But this is the priority. Is one reason why I can summon the support, the immediate support of like Casey and GIS and Kaylin as well, because this is like a number one priority right now. So we'd love to kind of talk about the details.
Third or related question to that is timeline. So, we can't plan it. Probably can't. We could, if we really set our mind to it, plant 879 trees next year or this year. But, is this a 3-year plan to get to a number, sort of that piece to it? So I would love to see and again, I'm prepared to lean in pretty significantly, what's the city have available to it? What's the 1, 2, 3, or 5 year goal to get there? What's the cost per tree? And then what's the maintenance plan? And I knew you're working on all of those things, but I think
No.
for our organization and the development community to lean in, so having some of those will help.
I did want to, Casey, initially, we looked at the peninsula. And I remember you had a number in terms of like some early opportunity, just to give like a rough estimate as to where we could achieve earlier on. Do you still have
Right,
access?
right.
Yeah.
I think the number I came up with was about 2,500 on for the whole peninsula, not just the Ashley Riverside. But that is before that was actually before we worked with our urban forestry. So this criteria that they came up with, I think is excellent. And what I need to do now, my kind of lift at this moment is to build a tool that will run all of these empty wells through that. So that number I came up with was city maintained streets with vacant wells on streets that had less than 30% canopy. But that didn't factor in, is there utility, is it flood prone? So that is all to say that was that number was prior to getting this kind of criteria together. So I've got some work to do too.
Okay, no worries. And I think that's been part of the process, is just trying to refine this Arbor Pro data, which we'll also need some assistance with. And also urban forestry weighing in, Clark and Adria have been phenomenal in helping us really see the viable opportunities versus, just an empty well. Yeah.
Great.
And a quick question, Casey, the Arbor Pro survey, is that shareable for or that's an internal?
No. So we talked with Adria about this, and the thought is we'd like to run everything through the criteria before we make it public, because it shows all these quote unquote vacant tree wells that might have other considerations. So we want to kind of vet it before it's shared. I know that the goal is to make it shared, but we don't want all of these vacant wells that are actually not suitable appearing like somebody can plant a tree there.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you for that. Yes.
Question. So how plugged in has the planning department, planning and zoning been involved in this? Because they certainly can help with implementation through the land development process. Okay.
We're in the planning phases ourselves. Again, so this is an initiative that we'd like to start building out currently, but like reaching out to Casey and GIS, that's the intent, is to bring in our planning team at different levels.
Okay.
So yeah, what we're presenting is not fully baked. It literally needs to be built out. Yes.
Suggestion along those lines, thank you, Catherine, is with the planning staff, I would like to look at an overlay of existing projects coming out of the ground paired with need. Because there may be a way to address some of that as part of the development process on a voluntary basis or an incentivized basis. So I think that at the right moment with planning staff, deeper dive into maybe even looking parcel by parcel or approved development process, and I think we probably accelerate some of this with some smarter decisions earlier in the process.
Gotcha. I appreciate that.
That's a great idea.
And your timeline was start of this and
Initially in the spring, so April was the date, but again, we have some significant holidays and whatnot, but the spring is what we're aiming for. Again, December 5th being South Carolina Arbor Day. I know it's right around the corner, but it could be the soft launch for at least
It'll be like the more like communications launch,
Yes.
and I think our forestry team like always gets the mayor out there with a shovel and planting a tree. And
reading
this
a
year,
proclamation.
this year will be also kind of soft launching this relief program and giving updates, and then I think targeting with knowing the planting seasons in the springtime to have this program fully up and running. Big significant amount.
So I'd love to, so I want to make sure that we have enough time for public comment period. So what I'd like to do is just follow up and make sure that I get everyone in this room that's committed to next steps to maybe a next meeting, a virtual meeting. We can have those initial, I can have questions and answers, and we can probably just dive in a little deeper then. But I would like to open up. Thank you so much, Casey, once more. Appreciate all your help with this. It's been
Thank
tremendous.
you.
Yeah, we're gonna open up the floor now to public comment, and we don't have an official, so it could be you can raise your hand. Sure.
I just wanted to acknowledge or bring up support. Who am I? Yes, I will say that when my name is Blake Scott. I'm a professor at the College of Charleston, and I'm also with the Marsh Project. I'd like to, just for the record, I know this is not necessarily quorum, but for your record, that we're in strong support of the Just Ecological Corridor, and we're willing to mobilize community support and volunteer and fundraise to support you all however we can. And that this has real benefit to our community. I live in Wagner Terrace, and on flood events, I cannot leave my neighborhood. And so it's a real hazard. And so we want to bring in nature-based solutions to deal with the flooding on Gordon Street and along Rutledge that are main arteries. And then how can we harness the power of the creek to bring biodiversity, but also to deal with flooding through nature-based solutions. So thank you for your work on this.
Thank you so much for your work on this. Seriously, you provide the framework. Yes. Yes.
My name is Joel Caldwell. I'm also with the Marsh Project. One of the things we wanted to make a point of saying was that this isn't just the peninsula. You know, the Just Ecological Corridor line stretches off the peninsula, both towards James and John's Island, and also towards Mount Pleasant, where they're doing great work already. And that also that there's a real return on investment. You know, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but we can share data of, you know, when you invest in things like the ecological corridor, like greenways, it really you benefit economically very quickly. So it's another great reason to support this initiative.
Blake Suarez, other Marsh Project guy. Yeah, I just want to express my gratitude too for you guys taking on this project. This was our pie in the sky project. We never thought it would really go beyond us knocking on doors with like seeds and native plants, but with city support, I feel like the scope of this project is just like a gazillion times fold. And we really want to thank you. And we want to keep this partnership going. We're not worried about it stopping, but however you need us, like Blake said, we can mobilize our community pretty quickly. And yeah, we'll get things done.
Please think about where you can plant some trees.
Oh,
And that's wrong. Okay, yes.
Hey everyone, Belvin Olsoff with the Charleston Climate Coalition. I want to echo strong support of the Just Border Project, but also highlight the city's partnership with us on the Climate Mayor's Fund grant for greening the east side. There's been a CCC project the last 6 months to put in green infrastructure on the historic east side, and it's been going very well. We're going to have 5 new rain gardens in place, plants, community engagement events. And in my mind, that's sort of been a component of the Just Corridor that's also centered on equity. And there is I think, a great potential in this project for addressing things like the urban heat islands on the east side, flooding. And so I just want to.
But don't we have something come? Are you aware of what's happening next week?
Yes, planting day. Let me pull up the graphics so I have all the information.
So yeah, as Melvin pulls up his graphic, we're having a planting day, one of our rain garden planting initiative. Shout out to the Climate Coalition. They were the recipient of an amazing Climate Mayor's grant last year that was facilitated by my predecessor, Katie. And so we're finally making some progress with that. And so the east side is our focus. Along with the Parks Department, we've identified at least 2 or 3 areas on the east side that will receive a rain garden, but I'll let you go.
Yeah, so there are, I believe, 2 public land rain gardens and 3 private land rain gardens going up. A lot of churches are on board. So that is taking place. The Mall Playground Rain Garden Workshop installation is going to be on Friday, 11/14 from 9 to 12 p.m. at 68 Columbus Street. That'll be with ECDC, Clemson Extension, CCC, and the City of Charleston Office of Sustainability. So there will be both some educational parts of how rain gardens can help with flooding and tips for design, as well as the opportunity to help put in this rain garden.
Yeah, it had tremendous help from the Clemson Extension. And so they'll provide a lot of the information and teach people that the whole goal is to bring back our rain garden program, but in a way where it's more accessible and also has the most impact. So this is one of the initial phases, but also part of the Just Corridor essentially as well. So November 14th, we'll be putting that out as well. I'll share that with the committee as well. So folks, if anyone wants to volunteer, roll up their sleeves for the planning day on November 14th, please come and join us on the east side. Yes.
Hey. It's all great. Thank y'all. It's back to the climate action plan. So that was, brought out 2001. It's going to be a 5-year plan. 2026 is coming up. Can you let us know what's the plan for up?
I don't have a current plan right now. I'm going to partner with my colleagues and I'll have a follow-up for you. The priorities of the climate action plan have not been, I think it's just how we're going to approach it. I think there are tons of recommendations that we just need to organize and to update, but I'll definitely have an update next time or just update with you separately, but we will. Yeah. Anything else? Yes.
My name is Sky Clodson. I teach at Clemson and help with the Marsh Project. And wanted to echo that we're very excited about the ecological corridor, and we understand on the city side, it is no small feat. You guys are working on peninsula plan, zoning, there's a lot going on, and I think this crosses a lot of those buckets. So that effort on the city side, we very much acknowledge. And we're so excited to be here today to have that acknowledged publicly for the city. It's really, really exciting.
Thank you. And this is not to sound like I want to say this because you said this last night. Paid attention. Yesterday evening, Kaylin said to the Marsh Project folks, it's just us in terms of resilience and sustainability. And in stepping into the role, I've been in role for a while. I do want to help manage expectations that a lot of the work that Katie led will never be just abandoned, but there probably will be a little bit of a change in direction and approach. And I just ask for grace with some of that as we move forward. I want to make sure that sustainability is not just environmental advocacy, but that we're also meeting the needs of our community when it comes to economic sustainability and public health as well. And so that's what my leadership will reflect that. So I want to help manage expectations, but in terms of the things that Katie championed, 100%, I want to pay tribute to those things, but I also want to manage expectations as resilience and sustainability continues to grow. So we're doing a lot, and I'm just excited to see what direction we take now.
I'd just add to that, that's why, and there's clear evidence of that in this room, is that's why these partnerships at the community level and with folks in this room and with members and with people streaming, that's why it's really critical too, because, even if we got a few more staff or something of that nature, like the city will never have the capacity to do it all, right? So that's why it's so critical that we're all pieces of this puzzle and partnership together.
Thank you. 12 o'clock.